Is Steve ready back there? There he is. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting, 4:30 p.m., Thursday, July 30th, 2020. First item would be to public meeting notice to receive and order filed the public meeting notice stating that the Planning Commission will conduct their meeting by teleconference pursuant to the authority of Minnesota Statute 13D-021 due to COVID circumstances. And then I'm going to go to approval of the minutes for the June 25th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Everybody signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 4 would be public hearing to consider the applicant of Harold M. Enarado, owner of Cala Contemporary Woodwork, LLC, as applicant, and Chris Dalton, city manager of the City of New Ulm, Minnesota, as the owner requesting a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a portable outdoor sawmill in a RA, agricultural residence, zoning district on the property located at 1200 Water Street. We'd look for staff for report.
Okay, thank you. The legal description of the property is the southwesterly 150 feet of outlot 16, City of New Ulm, Brown County, Minnesota, along with that part of the easterly one half of vacated Water Street adjoining said outlot 16, all being northwesterly of Lot 7, Block 1, Front Street, Industrial Park, 2nd Edition, said 150 feet measured perpendicular to the southwesterly line of said outlot 16. The street address of the property is, as noted before, 1200 Water Street. The property location is east of Water Street and south of 13th North Street. The request is to allow the operation of a portable outdoor sawmill in an RA, which is an agricultural residence zoning district. Project status: at their July 7th, 2020 meeting, the City Council accepted an offer from the applicant to purchase the property and directed the city attorney to prepare a purchase agreement with conditions for the sale. The deadline for making a decision on the conditional use permit is September 7th, 2020. The land use designation for the property in our comprehensive plan is undeveloped. The surrounding land uses in the comprehensive plan to the north, east, and south is undeveloped, and to the west is industrial. The reason we have an undeveloped classification is that's recognition of the fact that it's in a floodplain area. The zoning designation for the property is RA, Agricultural Residence District. The surrounding zoning to the north, east, and south is also RA. And it is I-1, which is a planned industrial district, and I-2, general industrial district to the west. The current site use, there's a building located on the property that is being used for storage purposes by the Public Utilities Commission. Current area uses to the north are prairie grasslands. To the west are industrial uses, Minnesota Valley Testing Laboratories and Southern Minnesota Tooling and the bike trail. To the south is a stormwater pond and prairie grasslands, and to the east, municipal wells and prairie grasslands. Notice of the public hearing has been sent to property owners within 350 feet of the subject property. To date, we have not received any public comments on the request. Project information. The proposed business would involve the manufacturing of furniture and woodwork products. That's what would be located in the building. The sawmill would be located outside of the building. Okay, a little bit about the history of the site. A building of approximately 8,000 square feet is located on the property. The building was constructed in 1965 and originally served as a water filtration plant. At the time of its construction, it does not appear that there was a flood insurance program in place. The plant ceased operation in 1994. Since 1994, the plant has been used for both public and private uses. The private uses were two different manufacturing businesses. The public uses of the building involved storage. The property is currently located in a flood fringe district of the Minnesota River. Business uses are allowed in this floodplain district. The total lot area is approximately 0.72 acres. Now a little bit about the zoning history. The building was constructed at a time when the property was zoned for industrial uses. The property has been used for industrial uses since that time. The property is now considered a legal non-conforming use. The applicant is proposing to operate a portable outdoor sawmill on the property as part of the furniture business. A sawmill is not listed as a permitted use in an industrial zoning district. Permitted conditional uses in the I-2 zoning district include any manufacturing, production, processing, cleaning, storage, servicing, repair, and testing of materials, goods, or products similar to those listed in subdivision 2 of this section, which conforms with the performance standards set forth for this district. Subdivision 2 is where it is identified what are permitted uses in the B2 zoning district. Approval criteria. Approval of the conditional use permit would authorize this use on the property. In order to recommend approval of the permit, the commission will need to determine that the request complies with the conditions required for the granting of a permit, and those are found section 9.82 subdivision 2. The reverse side of the application lists the 9 conditions and the applicant's response to them. An 8th question asks, why should the city approve your request? And the applicant's response was, our business will bring jobs to the community. It's better to have an operating business than an abandoned building. Application material includes the application form and then the following information regarding the sawmill provided by the applicant. That the sawmill is not dangerous to others. The applicant will be present when it is on and it will be locked when off. The site provides sufficient space to safely maneuver logs with the forklift. The sawmill has the same motor as a riding mower. They have also called area businesses with no issues. The applicant has identified 2 locations on the property for the sawmill, and I think on attachment, attachment 1 is where those locations are provided. So there are a total of 5 attachments. There is the conditional use permit application, the site location map, is attachment 2. Attachment 3 is the zoning map. Attachment 4 is the municipal easement map. And this document simply shows municipal easements that cross the property. And attachment 5 are site photos. Staff recommendation. The staff would recommend approval of the conditional use permit for the following reasons. Number 1, the request complies with the conditions required for the granting of a conditional use permit. Number 2, there is adequate area to accommodate the sawmill and associated items. Number 3, there are sufficient safeguards in place to protect the public from any adverse impacts. 4, surrounding industrial buildings are distant from the proposed use. 5, the amount of noise is within an acceptable range. 6, the staff has viewed and listened to similar sawmills, or a similar sawmill, and found it to generate a tolerable amount of noise. what am I up to? 7. Approval of the conditional use permit will facilitate the expansion of an existing New Ulm business. And 8, the operation of a sawmill as a conditional use permit would be similar to the following permitted industrial uses. Number 1 is that it would be similar to a contractor's office, shops, and yards for plumbing, heating, glazing, paper handling, roofing, ventilating, air conditioning, masonry, electrical, and refrigeration. 2, garages for storage, repair, and servicing of motor vehicles. 3, highway maintenance shops and yards. 4, lumber yards and storage facilities. And 5, manufacturing, processing, storage, servicing, and testing establishment. And I would note that those items are listed in the previously described subdivision 2. So those are permitted uses in the I-2 zoning district. Recommended conditions. Number 1, hours of operation for the sawmill will be between the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. Saturday and Sunday. 2, the use shall comply with the performance standards found in subdivision 8, paragraph B of section 9.12. Those are standards that are identified for industrial land uses in the city of New Ulm. 3, no equipment, vehicles, or other materials will be placed or stored in the designated easement areas on the property. Number 4, the police department, fire chief, and building official will inspect the sawmill and its surrounding area on a periodic basis to ensure that the site is being maintained in a safe and secure condition. 5, the applicant will operate the sawmill in accordance with the manufacturer's specifications. And 6, this is something that staff is throwing out for your consideration, is that the applicant install a physical barrier to approved by the city separating the sawmill operating the area from users of the recreational trail. Placement of the barrier is subject to the existence of a suitable location, and the barrier may also be placed in unused areas of Water Street. And we're not necessarily looking for a fence or some other type of solid obstruction, but just something that kind of marks that if you cross this, you're going into a different location. So it could be some type of maybe some rocks or, something that would mark that line. So we have 2 motions. One would be to recommend approval with conditions, and the second would be to recommend denial, and reasons would need to be provided then for that motion. That would conclude the staff report. And I should note that John helped with the preparation of this staff report.
Well, this is a public hearing. If anybody in the audience would like to be heard, you could, Tom, yep, if you want to step up to the mic and please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Thomas Berg. I'm the owner of Minnesota Valley Testing Laboratories, which adjoins the area that we're talking about now. And I do have a couple of questions. One,
Could we have you, Tom, sorry to interrupt you, speak into the mic there a little bit for the audience. Sorry.
You may have to take off your mask so
You
it
may
doesn't
have
get
to.
muffled.
okay. Yeah, okay, how's that? Good?
Yep.
Okay. The safety, I have an office window that looks out over that trail, and there are a lot of people on that trail. And they're not all responsible adults by any means. There's, in fact, quite some young children. You have walkers, you have bicyclists. I would strongly recommend that if you do this, I assume that the only place that there's adequate space, most likely, is on the trail side of that building for a sawmill, and that be fenced adequately, because that could be a real could be a danger. And trucks, I have no idea. Does anybody know how many trucks and how big are they coming in hauling logs? Does anybody know?
Well,
Sorry, what?
Yeah, we're the owners.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll need to have you, maybe if you can conclude your remarks, Tom.
Okay, well, I have a couple more questions. I'll just go through all the
Yeah.
questions, and
Yeah.
then they can take them after
Sure.
that. Yeah, fine.
sounds good.
The safety on the trucks, how many and how big, that's, and also, there is a set of electrical transformers right there. And those serve my building. And they're not that high. And I'm just wondering what the city is thinking about to handle that situation. I really think that has to be addressed, those transformers. And what about employee parking? I've been through that one. I built some properties down in that area, and the city is pretty rigid on parking requirements for employees. And I haven't seen anything, or how's that going to get handled? And then what about waste disposal? Sawmills generate a lot of waste. So I'm just wondering how that all gets handled. And again, but I having asked those questions, please understand, I would like to see this happen. We need any and all businesses in New Ulm, and when somebody has the foresight and the courage to start a new business in New Ulm, I would like to see that happen. So those are my questions. So I guess you're on.
Thank you, Tom.
Sure.
And now we've got the owners of Cala Contemporary Woodwork that'll try to answer these questions. Dave, are you going to repeat the questions? We'll just do them one by one, you're proposing?
Okay, the first question had to do with safety and the suggestion that the area should be fenced from the bike trail.
Oh, hi, I'm Harold, and this is Jamie. We're the owners of Kala. Those are great questions, and we need to build something around the sawmill in the future, because this is a seasonal job. It's just during the summer that we can run it, and it's really hot. So nobody wants to be outside using that machine where it's 95 degrees outside. So in the future is to build something to cover. We already talked about that, to put a roof and on the side. So the sawmill will be located on the side of the building, and then we are gonna load the logs from that side. So that will be like really far away from the trail where the people walks. So that's one of the solutions that we got for that. We are gonna build something in the future just to cover that. We can run the sawmill without that, and there is no problem, because the only thing that comes out of the sawmill is dust that doesn't fly more than 4 feet because it's wet. It's not like a dry wood. When we are in the shop inside, the wood is dry. So when we send that dry dust just fly everywhere. But we are talking about fresh cut trees that are full of water. That are probably 80% water content inside the log. So they just fly and drop like probably 4 feet. So, and the collection of the saw is just a line, like a pile where the sawmill runs, and just collects just right there. So it's really easy to control the saw problem.
Yeah, with the sawdust, our plan for that, all we would need to do is put a tarp under the actual sawmill. And since, like Harold said, the dust just kind of piles up in a line underneath the machine, it falls right into the tarp, and so it's easier to dispose of. And I think something that would kind of answer multiple questions that he is talking about. I think when people think of a sawmill, they're kind of thinking of like a big operation with big truckloads of trees and things like that. that's not really our vision for our business. We don't plan on being like a major sawmill operation. We're milling wood mostly for our own use so that we don't have to purchase wood from other people when we're making furniture. Because right now, for example, we just sold a table that was $5,000, but we had to spend $1,000 to buy wood from someone else. So now that we can saw our own wood, it's going to reduce our cost of goods sold drastically. And so basically, we're going to be a smaller operation because we're sawing, they're kind of called urban slabs. So it's not like we're not milling to build lumber to build houses. We're milling urban slabs, live edge slabs that other furniture makers like us, the style that we do, that they can purchase those and make furniture as well. So there aren't going to be big, huge truckloads of wood coming in and out of our location. And also, when we're talking about parking, I mean, at this point, at least not for a really, really long time, our staff is going to not be very big either. So right now it's Harold and I, and then we have 2 employees. We hope to add on more, but we're not envisioning being like a team of even 50 in this type of a location. I mean, by the time that we even got to, 10, we'd probably be looking somewhere else to get a bigger facility. So our plan for this building in the next 10, 15 years is to be a smaller operation. And so for parking, I think we'll be okay. There's space on is that west, the west side? And there's a couple of spaces right in the front too. And for what we plan on doing in this building in the next 10 to 15 years, that's sufficient.
Okay, one of the questions that Mr. Berg had to do with trucks and how many and how would you get lumber or logs to that site and how often?
Well, it's gonna be just me with my pickup truck.
It's a small operation.
Like she says, we are a sawmill, but we are not like cutting pine to do 2x4s. We are not selling to Home Depot. It's just a small operation that we are gonna get logged from the tree disposal place, once in a while. And the sawmill is not running all the time. Our main business is the furniture. We are just opening the sawmill because we saw a great opportunity with the logs that the people cut and then just burn down in the tree disposal. So those are the logs that we are bringing in place and processing all that. So it's gonna be my truck and a trailer, probably just 1 or 2 logs, once in a while. And the idea was to get the building, the furniture making factory is gonna be there, the shop is gonna be there, but that place is not big enough for a sawmill in the future. So if we grow, we need to move out of there because there is not a place for us to grow with a sawmill in there. But for right now, for what our plans are, is just great.
Okay, maybe just, so you indicated that the number of, you'd be making supply runs once a month, with logs?
Yeah, I guess that really depends on what's in the tree deposit site because right now Harold kind of whips over there every day or every other day to see what people have dumped because we can't really predict, how often people are going to cut their trees. And the other thing is if we can beat other people to it because sometimes people get there and they'll take like a really beautiful black walnut and use it for firewood. So if we can get there before that, then we'll grab it. But so it could be, but right now I'd say it's maybe once a week that he'll come with a log, but depending on what is there, if somebody shows up with a huge black walnut load and drops it at the dump site, we might add another day.
The same, our sawmill is not a high production machine. It's more like a basic, hand production kind of thing. It's not like hydraulic machine. It's not like a big processing machine that is gonna give you a lot of boards per hour. It's not like that.
So with your truck and trailer, what is the longest log you'd ever haul in? No more than 15 feet or something,
Oh,
or
no.
even less than
No,
that?
no, we
Okay.
we just haul like probably 8 to 10 feet long.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the sawmill, the longest that we can mill is 16 and a half feet. And even from the people that we've had wondering if they could bring their logs over, none of them have even gotten close to being that long.
Yeah, just imagine that we are gonna be working with logs that are a dining table size, because that our main cells, like dining tables or conference tables that are 10 feet long.
Okay, there was also a question about the electrical transformers and their locations. Have you, what are your thoughts about that subject?
I don't know if they're concerned about us hitting that with something, or
I don't know, just their location and proximity to your business, is that?
Or do we need to put some sort of posts in place for
Yeah.
added security? Is that something
yeah,
that
probably that.
we would
That
do
would
as
probably be more our
more
responsibility.
from the PUC end? You
Yeah.
know, that we would look into that and addressing it, because now it will have more frequent traffic there possibly on that road. That might be a good solution.
Okay, I think you answered the question on employee parking, waste disposal.
Yes. The best way to do it is to just lay a tarp where the sod just runs. But for me, I will install a dust collector system for that, and then just put a hose to collect it in a box, a wooden box that I can move within my forklift. The problem is, like, all that dust, if you don't have something to just collect, like a dust collector, it will fly to my eyes. And the other day I couldn't sleep because I got something in my eyes, because I was on my friend's sawmill using it, and I wasn't wearing the glasses of protection that day, and something just flew in my eye. And he said, no, the best option here is just to put a 4 inches flexible tube connected to a blower, and you collect all the dust in there. And the dust, well, what my friend does with the dust is, like, he donates the sawdust to a farm for bedding for animals, for horses and stuff. So probably we can start doing that too.
Okay, I think that completes the questions.
I have another question.
Go ahead, Ann.
My question again relates to the sawmill that's sitting outside.
Do you have a microphone?
Excuse me. My question relates to the sawmill that's sitting outside, and also Tom's concern about the bike trail. Not the most athletic person here, but we do use that bike trail, walking the dog and riding the bike. And I've had several times had to stop because there's been trucks and city trucks using the municipal well road and things. And it can be a hazard already with vehicles and that bike trail being there. I really share that concern. And is there any other barrier that can be
Well,
put up?
the city did put something in there, a physical barrier, but I am not sure what type of physical barrier that you guys would be talking about in the recommendations.
Yeah, because I've had to physically stop and.
Would it be a cement barrier? Would it be a fence? Would it be a permanent fence? Would it be a piece of, what quantifies a barrier to make sure nobody walks onto his property?
Well,
The attractive nuisance also of the saw blade itself, whether it's running or not, and I don't care if it's a small lawnmower mower, but that's an attractive nuisance for me.
And kids will be attracted
Kids
to
will
it.
be kids, yes. Adults will be adults also. I mean, I can see a lot of people.
If I'm not mistaken, there's 2 locations on the map, and I think one is way further from the bike trail,
now.
more along the road. Is that where you were thinking
Yep.
more to use it? And
Oh,
so,
yep.
and I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but when you were talking about the suggestion about the barriers, at this time, there was really no hard constrictions on those suggestions. It could be stakes and chains to rope off the
Yeah.
area where the sawmill is.
Yeah, and I think the staff concern was more with option one, because that was
Right, that's
closer
very
to
close to the bike trail, yeah.
trail. With option two, we have to keep that roadway open, so you really can't put any barriers there.
Mm-hmm.
That also, I think, probably restricts their ability to load their sawmill. So it perhaps would just be in front of that, if something were to be installed, that would be the most appropriate location.
Yeah.
And the protection of the blade during non-use periods when no
Yes,
one,
that's
if
a
you're in the
great question.
building.
Yeah, that's a great question. The blade, the head of the sawmill goes down and sits probably half an inch from the bottom of the thing, so it's just right there. But we're talking about that, and the best option is to take the blade out.
Okay.
When it's not in use.
Exactly. Because there is two reasons. The main is the security for people that goes there, and kids are kids.
Kids.
That's right. And then the second one is that Woodmiser recommends to lose the tension when it is not in use, because it's a lot of tension on the blade. So if Woodmiser is saying, Woodmiser is the company who makes the sawmill, if they are saying lose the tension, and then there is a security issue that we can fix with that, let's just take the blade out.
Okay.
So that way nobody got hurt, and
That's right.
yeah. So
Thank
we
you.
are gonna take the blades out, and it's gonna be there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've got, obviously we don't want anybody to get hurt, but on top of that, we also don't want anything to happen to our equipment 'cause it's really expensive. So believe me, we're motivated to make sure that it's not something that's easily accessible by people walking by on the bike path.
Yeah.
I have two questions if we're.
Go ahead, Ashley.
Right now you guys have the shop for retail sales up on Broadway, correct? Are you planning on leaving if the retail sales kind of up there, so that way there wouldn't be any retail traffic coming down to this location, or will you be moving those sales to this location as well?
I can answer that one.
Yeah.
So with this transition, and we're still early in our business, and I feel like our our commercial spot up in New Ulm Real Estate was a great stepping stone for us in getting to be a more well-known business in New Ulm, and letting people see what we're all about in our furniture. But right now, I think this transition for us is going to be more focused on just manufacturing in this building. We're not going to have our commercial sales in there yet. At some point in the future, that would be nice, but this is a massive building, and we're in the initial stages of our business right now. And the nice thing about this building for us is that it can be compartmentalized. And so the part where our shop is going to be and where the wood storage is where we're going to focus our resources on right now. And then in the future, as our business grows, we already have a space in there designated that could be where we can do retail, but not really even retail. It would be more like a showroom. So if people wanted to stop by the shop and talk about design and things, they could see examples, but not like having stuff in stock. Our plan is to be we're a small business, and we don't envision ever being a huge corporation, and we want to keep it that way. So
What's your foot traffic right now for your retail location?
it was not good. That's part of the reason why we kind of want to step away from retail. Most of our sales are online. The vast majority, I'd say. I think we're at like 70% online
Deliver
sales.
those online, or will they be picking up there? I'm just trying to gauge how
No,
much more
we
traffic
deliver.
besides
It's
you
shipping.
guys. Okay.
Shipping. I'd say right now, our retail spot up at New Ulm Real Estate, we already cleared it out because we're getting ready for this move. So right now we're just renting a shop from Booth Welding, and Harold gets maybe one local customer a week.
Okay. Fair enough. Then my other question
Not
I
even
had.
that.
Not even that. I got 3 guys stopping in 1 year, so it's mainly online. We
Yeah.
ship all over the place. We ship to Germany and all around the United States. So, yeah.
My other question, and I don't know if this is necessary for you guys or city staff was with the conditions around the hours. Just wondering, I mean, if this kicks off and they all of a sudden he needs to work late at night, do they have to come back to us for approval to extend those hours out? And those are awfully limited hours if you should hopefully be crazy busy and need to work later into the evening.
Well, the recommended hours, so that's solely for the operation of the sawmill. So they can work within their building, I guess, as much as they want, and so that operation would not be subject to that condition.
Did that seem reasonable to you guys with
Absolutely.
those? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and you guys will be surprised. Like the main talking right now is the sawmill, and it sounds scary, but that's gonna be probably just like 10% of our whole thing because it's not our business. You know, we do furniture.
Right. We're
Yeah.
using it to reduce our cost of goods sold
Yeah.
so that we can produce our own wood in-house and not have to spend so much money elsewhere.
Yeah.
That was it for my question.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? For Cala Contemporary Woodwork? Tom Berg, does this satisfy the answers that you received here?
Thank you. It's a lot smaller than I thought it. I understood.
Yeah, no, don't be scared.
I had this vision of big log trucks coming in.
Oh, no.
That's not.
No, we're much cooler than that.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, I've been collecting logs with the idea to open the sawmill like 2 years ago, and I have 14 logs. 2 years ago.
But that's 14 logs that
Yeah,
aren't going to
they're
get
pretty
burned
nice,
or
yeah.
used for firewood. They can be
Yeah.
made into something beautiful, so that's pretty cool for the city of New Ulm too to
Yeah.
avoid that.
Yeah, that's great that we could repurpose them.
Yes.
Dave? Anything? Any more from staff?
No, just that, the commission should look at the conditions and, you can accept them as is, you can change them, you should, decide, how you'd like to proceed.
I guess I would have a question for the staff as for the recommended conditions. You know, we have an opportunity to do an interim conditional use permit. Would that be something that we wouldn't?
We can't do an interim conditional use permit.
Okay.
Once, we establish, the conditions, they remain. If they should change our operation and then come back in, to change, then we can change the conditions.
Okay.
I would just like to ask the city when they're measuring to just scope out the parking. I mean, I think there's probably adequate parking down there, but I don't, just measure off enough for like 5 spaces or whatever. 5 spaces for now seems to be.
That's fine.
I would assume we'd have a minimum required stalls with the size of facility like that.
If it's a business, you have,
Yeah.
yeah.
You would like a designated area?
Yeah, I guess I that's kind of what I'm thinking. If they're going to choose to put the saw on the side of the building by the wastewater road, was that what it was called, the well road or whatever?
The Well Road, yeah.
Then the front could look like it would be adequate parking. But if the sawmill is on the front, then is the parking on the side adequate to establish at least a half a dozen spots? I think it is from what I remember being down there, but I don't really know where the property ends because it's just building and walking path and road. And then I know Tom's is across the street, the road, but.
Yeah, I think staff thought that there would be sufficient room in front of the building to
Because normally it
accommodate
comes to
their
us with parking
needs,
designated.
given the size of the business that they've been
Okay.
talking about. Now, there could be a point at which their parking needs might exceed, what can be accommodated there. So that
Okay.
is, that's something that I guess we would maybe have to have an understanding on. There is you know, some room there to work
Okay.
with, so. But if you wanted to have a condition,
I just-
regarding, having a designated parking plan, that's something that we certainly could work on.
I don't know if I want it as a condition. I just want to make sure the space is available. I guess I'm just voicing my opinion.
Or just have staff work with the,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the parking plan and,
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on where they put it. You can adequately see that there's spots there, and that, there's spots there, but I don't know how far back it goes. And if you look from one map to the other where it's red lined off, one, you aren't even going to get the saw in because it runs along the front of the building. So unless I'm looking at it wrong. So.
And for maybe for some scale, if you look at attachment 2.
Yeah. I'm looking at
Water Street.
attachment 2, and that's where I'm seeing that the red line runs where option 1 of the sawmill is going to be, so then they can't put the sawmill there.
Well,
But that's,
for some scale though, maybe that parking area on the it would be the west side of that building, the area that you're talking about. For some scale, Water Street right there is 120 feet.
okay,
So that, if you compare that to the red line in front of that building, that's 100.
so that is
Feature
all
more.
available, okay. All right, then I'll just lose the condition, I guess, it's just as long as.
any further discussion? I'm going to close the public hearing and we'll look for a motion to accept.
I
So
move to
moved.
recommend the approval with conditions.
I'd second that.
Okay, can I just ask for clarification? One of the conditions is to install a physical barrier, separating the sawmill from the recreational trail. So is that something you want us to pursue, or what are your thoughts about that?
Well,
I think if you put some posts in or some rocks or some, just maybe define the boundary line from the bicycle trail to the property so
I would think
people
that's
know.
gonna depend on insurance. I mean, isn't it an attractive nuisance to have any business without some barrier there? Wouldn't you? But maybe that's because I've been in manufacturing too long.
There's no barrier from Minnesota Valley Testing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but
On
that's
the
not
bike
an
path- On the bike path on the
yeah.
south end of town, there's no barrier between the storage sheds and the
There
bike
is by the
trail.
gravel pits, though. There's is it M&R who has the gravel thing down there? There's the concrete blocks, and there is by the trucking companies, there's the concrete blocks.
But I mean, like the storage units that are
Yeah.
out on that end of town, the storage
Yeah.
units are there, the bike trail's there. Cars drive on the bike trail,
I know.
yeah, so.
unless it's a fence, they're gonna go over it, they're gonna go under it, they're gonna go up between it.
Yeah, I
Unless it's
know.
a permanent 6-foot fence, which is gonna
You could still
cost
go
them
over a fence.
$20,000, I just can't see.
And then you
spending
have
that kind of money.
setbacks for the fence, so.
Yeah, I think staff was thinking that with option 2, if there was any fencing or a barrier to be provided, that would be something maybe that came off the side of the building, so it basically kind of hid the sawmill from maybe from public view, or something in that area, not necessarily something along the bike trail.
Hearing the owner's intention to remove the blade from the machine when it's not in use, I guess, lessens my concern.
Correct.
Yeah.
Also, that their long-term plan is to eventually cover,
Correct.
enclose it in some way.
How large is this sawmill that you're
20
anticipating?
feet.
Excuse me?
20 feet long.
20 feet long?
Yeah, it's a
And-
trailer.
Oh,
Yep.
Very narrow.
thank you.
Yeah, it's like probably
Size of a car
and a half.
trailer, probably?
the size
The
of what?
size of like a car trailer, probably?
Yeah, a small utility trailer.
Right.
Yeah, but 20 feet long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you need an amended motion to eliminate
Well-
that condition?
Well, if you accept the conditions,
Yeah.
condition 6 says that they will install a physical barrier. So if you think that's appropriate, then we should define what that physical barrier is. If you don't think it's necessary, then you should remove that from the conditions.
Seeing as how I made the motion, I would be comfortable dropping that condition for the reasons that I stated.
I'd second that.
So we have a motion and a second with conditions 1 through 5 as staff recommended. Any further discussion? We're gonna have to call a roll then to signify for aye.
Okay, so Mr. Firth,
Aye.
Ms. Earl,
Aye.
Ms. Aukus,
Aye.
Ms. Mako,
Aye.
and Mr. Karnitz is not with us, is that correct? Okay, and Mr. Golden,
Aye.
and Chair Mack.
Aye.
Okay.
And opposed? Motion carried. So this will go to the next council meeting for recommendation, and maybe you want to, it'd be nice if you would attend for any further questions.
Good luck with your business.
Good luck.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to go look online.
All right. Item
Be a
4.
senior.
Item 4.2, consider the application of Andrew and Nancy Liliaden on behalf of Liliaden Business Properties LLC, requesting a variance from the city code to allow an additional 44 square feet of signage on property located at 1301 to 1305 South Broadway. The permitted amount of sign space for this property is 200 square feet. We'll look for staff for a report.
All right. So just before we get into this variance and the next variance, since we do have a few people who, Ms. Earl and Ms. Aukus, who haven't been on the Planning Commission as long, I just want to give some basic background on how we look at variances. And there is a set of criteria that we have on the back of each variance application. There are 7 items on the back of that variance application that we ask the applicant to answer as to why they would need that variance. Now, there are 4 of those items that come directly out of state statute. Okay, the question on, is this a reasonable use of the property? Is there something unique about the property that would require a variance or need a variance? Does it maintain the central character of the location of where that variance would be granted? And then the other 2 items, or sorry, the one other item specifically it says in state statute is that for economic, you cannot grant a variance for economic reasons alone. It has to relate to the property. The city added 2 more questions to the variance application. One was asking the applicant, is this variance in harmony with the purpose of Chapter 9, Chapter 9 being the city's zoning code? And then the second one was, is the variance consistent with the city's comprehensive plan? So I just wanted to provide that background because we do a lot of variances here at the Planning Commission, and sometimes it's nice just to have a little update.
Thank you.
So the request is by Andrew and Nancy Liliaden to allow an additional 22 square feet per sign on property located at 1301 and 1305 South Broadway. Property owners is Liliaden Business Properties LLC. The legal description is Lot 13 and 14, Block 79, south of Center Street. Street address again is 1301 and 1305 South Broadway. The property location, the property is generally located south of 13th South Street and east of Broadway at the intersection of 13th South and Broadway. Deadline for a decision on this variance application is September 5th, 2020. The land use designation in the comprehensive plan is business. The surrounding land uses in the comprehensive plan are business. The zoning designation is B2, the service business zoning district. The surrounding zoning is B2 to the north, south, and east. R1 single family zoning district to the west. Currently, the site is used as a business and a restaurant. Current area uses would be businesses to the north and west, and then a school to the south and east. There has been a public hearing notice published in the Journal on July 18th, and to date we have not had any comments received on this application. To describe the project, the property owners are proposing to add 2 new signs on the business on each side of the building, so the north and south side of the building. The additional signage would bring the total amount of square footage for new signs for the entire property to nearly 244 square feet. Now, because of this type of business and its location, this property is allowed a total of 200 square feet of sign area. Staff has reviewed their proposal and sign plans, and their request, according to our calculations, was 235 square feet of signage rather than the 244. Section 9.41 subdivision 1C(a) of the city code requires that total surface area of all business signs on a lot shall not exceed the sum of 2 square feet per lineal foot of frontage, or 10% of that building facing area, or 75% of 75 square feet in an area, whichever is greater. Nor shall 2 or more smaller signs be so arranged and integrated as to create a surface in excess of these limitations. So in the case of a corner lot like this, the lot lines that we're measuring from or using for calculating the total square footage is the narrower side of that lot. So it would be the Broadway side here. And in this case, they have 2 lots. So we are able to use 100 feet of lot frontage, multiply it by 2. That's where you come up with the 200 square feet of total allowed signage. The 2 new signs will not be illuminated in any way, and they will say bigger, bolder, better, and they'll be on pin-mounted letters. And actually, if you look at their application, they have a colored depiction of what that would look like. The directional and menu boards on the property were not counted towards the total square foot requirement of signage allowed on the property. Staff did review various other sign options, and they can be viewed in attachment 4. That gives, in attachment 4, we give different options if we were to decrease the amount of square footage allowed. Proportionally, how would those signs look? So those are the measurements we gave in attachment 4. Attachment 6 is a review of the sightlines traveling north and south on Broadway. This attachment also has information pertaining to optimal sign sizes as it relates to speed and seconds of visibility at certain distances. And that information was gathered online from those 2 websites. The city has granted 6 sign variances since 1977. These did allow a square foot increase for signage beyond what was allowed in those districts. In 1981, the bank at 226 North Minnesota was allowed 240 square feet of sign area, and at that time, they were only allowed 150 square feet by code. In 1986, Mid-Continent Theater, where the movie theater is currently, was allowed to go 30 square feet beyond the allowed 135 square feet allowed on that property. And then since then, the only sign variances that the city has given to increase the amount of signage on that property have been for institutional uses, schools or churches. And you can see that there were 4 variances granted since 2000. There was one variance request that was denied, and that was in 1980, and that was to allow a 14.5 square foot sign in a residential district where the city code only allows 2 square feet. I do have listed there 2 alternative actions to consider. One, not to increase the amount of square feet allowed on the property, or another potential alternative would be lessen the variance amount. For the supporting data, we do have attachment 1, the variance application, attachment 2, a map showing the location of the property, attachment 3, the zoning map, attachment 4, the sign plan and sign sizing that was provided, sign plan and sign sizing. Staff provided the sizing information, and the applicant provided the sign sizes that they were going to install. We do have ground level photographs and then sight lines and distances. There are 2 recommended conditions. That the applicant shall contact the city building official once signage on the property is installed to verify compliance with the variance amount that is granted. And then if the variance is granted to increase the total sign, if the variance is granted to increase the total sign area on the property beyond 200 square feet, any further signage on the property in addition to the variance amount granted would require the applicant to come in for another variance. And that is the end of the staff report.
Thank you, John. Any questions?
If I can just maybe provide some additional information. The current regulations that we have for signage have been in place since 1968. And in looking at other zoning ordinances, they're compatible, I think, with you would find in other communities. Matter of fact, I just happened to be talking to the community development director from North Mankato today, and I just asked him, so what are your sign regulations for a business, in your community? And he said 150 feet for what I was describing. So, some communities are less. I suspect there are some communities that are more. The other thing that I wanted to note is that we hand out an average of 18.5 sign permits a year. So since basically 1986, we haven't given a variance for a business sign permit. So that's a lot of permits, and that means a lot of people have been complying with the ordinance.
Can I ask, is that just because, so we've had the 18.5 per year, but did they know that they had the option to apply for a variance if they wanted larger? Because I see that we've only denied one since ever, so I'm just wondering, because we would see the other denials here then on your list if we were turning them down, correct? Just since I'm new.
Right.
Okay.
That's true. Well, normally when you establish, this type of restriction, if you start giving out variances, why have that limitation? If you're giving out variances, that's an indication that's time to change your code.
Yep.
That you're not meeting, I guess, what people perceive, your needs to be. So, that's, I think, when you deal with people, you say you've got 200 square feet, then it's the obligation of the property owner, the developer, to comply with that requirement.
I guess I'd have a question, Dave, here in regards to this. Is this maybe something that's probably coming before us because it might be part of their franchise, if they're marketing, for their product that they're trying to sell, and it's not an illuminated sign, but is...
Yeah, their application does make reference to that, but I would really caution you about establishing a precedent where a corporate entity, in essence, gets to decide what your signage requirements are in your community. I mean, if McDonald's comes in then a year from now and says, boy, our corporate requirements are, we need 20% more signage. So then we grant that? I think you're setting, you've got a standard. And if you deviate from the standard, then I think you really need to consider changing your regulations. Because I think besides this specific request, I think you've got an equity issue here. We've got a lot of people that have complied with our sign requirements.
Did McDonald's,
and is it fair to them?
did McDonald's apply for anything extra when they remodeled? You recall?
I went through all the variances since we've started granting variances, and there was nothing for McDonald's in there, at least for signage.
But we're basing our signage off the amount of frontage for the property.
Right.
Correct.
is the business going to suffer if the signage isn't there?
Bigger, bolder, better. Is that a new Taco John?
That was a new tagline, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Can you come up to the mic, please, and state your name and address for the record, please?
Andy Liliadden, owner of Taco John's. And
Nancy Liliadden.
so yeah, bigger, bolder, better would be the new tagline. Taco John's is actually in the beginning of a complete new rebranding. We are actually one of the first stores, not the first, but one of the very few that have started this new rebranding process. So thus all new signage, new look, as you've probably noticed going down Broadway there. So yeah, so bigger, bolder, better is part of that rebranding, that design of the building. So
Can you answer that question in regards to, is this a franchise requirement for the sign size to be that size, or is
This
this the size that you guys wanted to have the sign?
yeah, they only give certain sizes on the signs. It's all pretty well specified as far as, 27-inch channel letters on the front, 17-inch channel letters on the side of the building, etc. And they submit us a design, which is basically actually what we provided to you, is what I got right from corporate for the look of the building. Certain things, there is, a couple of different options on like the pylon sign, which is what probably ate up a lot of my square footage. But that was an existing sign. We didn't replace the sign. It was essentially like a lens that got replaced. If you notice, we went from yellow to white now. That was just a fabric material. The sign itself wasn't replaced.
So in attachment 4, it lists other proportional sign sizes to consider for the bigger, bolder, better. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 options here.
Bigger, bolder, better.
It says option 7 is a 200
see that.
square foot.
Which one is this here?
I don't think they've seen
No, they.
this information, so this is new to them.
Oh, I thought this came from.
No.
them.
No.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, oh, okay, no.
No,
No, there was only one size pin letters that was provided, that was approved by Taco John's. So there's 2 sign companies. One is Persona out of Watertown, South Dakota, and another one out of Design Team in Tennessee. Those are only 2 approved sign vendors we can purchase our signs from, and they have specified what size those signs can be. So we don't really get an option on adjusting the sizing of the sign. It's purchasing.
Have you asked them?
We could try to see if they would allow us a custom sized sign, I guess.
Before you started remodeling, were you aware of the size of signage?
We didn't realize we
or-
were gonna end up going over. No. We did have the sizing, obviously, of each sign, but it wasn't until we got down to the end that we noticed we actually ended up going over just a little bit there, so. What's it?
If I read right here, staff, you say we're what, 35 square feet over?
Yeah.
Was it?
The calculations when they applied for their sign permit, they provided all the signs, which Andy has talked about, all the signs that they were going to be installing and their dimensions. When I did the calculations on all of these signs that were provided, it was 235 square feet.
So John, within the 200, or I think you came up with 194 square feet for there's 3 other signs that'll be.
Yes. Yep. I'm gonna have to take this sheet back. Yes. Again, on attachment 4, without the bigger, bolder, better signs. So the pylon sign, the linear, the top of the pylon sign, so the curved part, and then the linear pylon sign, the bottom part, which I think, does it say breakfast?
Breakfast.
Breakfast
yeah.
on it. And then the building channel letters facing Broadway. The taco sign, which is also facing Broadway. And then the 17-inch channel letter sign that's on both the north parapet, the red vertical piece on the building, and then the south parapet. When you add those square footages together, you come up with 190.75 square feet. And then the bigger, bolder, better signs, they're 15 inches by almost 18 feet long, which gives you 22 and a half square feet total. Times two signs, you get 45 square feet. That's where we come up with 235.
So technically, if I followed that correctly, they could do one side and not the other and be in compliance if that was an option. I was trying to
Well-
follow the math there, but is that not quite?
Well, it'd still be 12 over.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks.
I get it. I've been there before already, and when you guys want to try doing a nice building, and all of a sudden, the letters and everything else are going to screw up everything. It's just, you have the letters already ordered?
Yes, yeah. So we installed everything, with Elwood here, whatever, minus the bigger, bolder, better. So all the signage is up minus those two signs on the side of the building. So, that's why we're here. If you would approve that, then we could install those. So
And is there a problem with the franchise if it doesn't get installed?
that would be something we'll have to work out with them, see if they.
John indicated that Sid Signs is doing the fabrication, and so the bigger, better, bolder they're
Not-
waiting on this.
Not the
decision.
fabrication,
He's
just
doing
the
the
install.
Install.
Oh, just
Just
install. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, they were purchased from Persona out of Watertown, South Dakota.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're sending that to the store.
Yes. Yep. Sid has them. Yep.
We grant variances all the time. Is this going to let the cat out of the bag, though?
Yeah, it will. Only, and I hearken back to my days on HPC and stuff too, and people would come, the franchise says we have to have a backlit sign, the franchise says this, it doesn't have to be, and we've not allowed it there in most case, in any case that I can think of either, and we've always said no to.
But here in the case, we've got 100 feet of frontage, the
I
narrowest
know.
portion of the lot.
That's the
And it's on a corner. So we're trying to get the visibility from both sides.
Both, correct.
The Taco John's is the sign that's the visibility to bring you in. Is bigger, better, bolder going to bring you in?
Yeah, is it something that someone's going to say is new, possibly? That's not for me to
Yeah.
argue.
Yeah, I
on that
know,
aspect
I
for the
know, but-
details. They're
You
gonna
guys have
say-
done a remarkable job on remodeling so far.
And I agree. It's
Yeah.
it's
Look
Appreciate
sharp.
it.
I'm
It
glad you
does.
guys invested in the community like you did. I think you shoot this back at your corporate office and say, this is the situation we have. I think they come up with a remedy for you.
yeah.
So at this point, I would deny the variance, but not saying you can't come back, and if they have a different proposal
Okay.
through corporate, come back again and maybe
This can't
Maybe there's
be
something else that can
this
be
can't
worked
be
out.
the only
work with
franchise
John,
that's.
come back to
you
the,
know.
because we want to work with you guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
Does
We
that, sorry, does
Go ahead.
denying this variance, I know we don't want to open a can of worms to allow for more. I completely understand that. I used to do variance approval, so I get that absolutely. But then do we also set the precedent of people not wanting to remodel because of something like this
I
when?
don't think so.
I don't think so.
We should have a second before we have discussion.
I'm just
Yeah.
throwing it out there. So I would make a motion to deny this based
Okay.
on the information that we have right now.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a seconded. Now we'll continue discussion. So, you were visiting on this, Ashley, about...
Yep, so that was just my thoughts, is thinking of as a business owner, and just, I think that looking forward, does that hinder, these cities' decisions, does that hinder someone from thinking, well, then I don't want to remodel if something like this comes up? And I really don't think either side's going to come up. I personally don't feel like it would open up a can of worms for 35 additional square feet, but that's just my opinion. But then I also don't know about the other side of the flip side
Are we
of
going to
it.
stop at 50? Are we going to stop at 60? Are we going to stop at, if we go further? I don't know.
I understand, but when, corporations or franchise, we're trying to make it and
Yeah.
we put a lot into it. We're trying to make it, even though it's part of a rebranding of there, we went above and beyond, you know, everything, the top of the line of everything to help the community to show better. The buildings in New Ulm have been starting updated and stuff like that to show that to get more. You want more businesses in town, you also got to support the businesses to have them put their life and effort into those businesses to make them grow and stick around too, so.
Do we know the history or what the specification of it, why is it 200 square feet and not, I know because of the calculations, but is there a reason we don't allow more? Is there, because I know it's your argument of, well, we increase now, what about later? But why couldn't we consider increasing to 250 square feet? Is there a reason that it's set specifically at that?
At least our investigation of other ordinances is that this is, it's within the range of, you know, the requirements for business zoning districts. I'd be happy to, you know, bring back to you at a future meeting some list of what other communities require for similar types of zoning districts. That wouldn't be a problem at all.
I think that might be helpful, Dave, because you stated earlier you had was it Mankato you were? North Mankato you were saying was 150 square feet. And
Yeah.
You just said a range, so a range could be 150 to 250 here in this
And
case, perhaps.
I didn't catch it. It was 150 square feet for how much frontage or what was?
For a similar type of business.
Similar type
See,
of business.
a lot of times, each community does its own, you know, sign ordinance. And so the regulations vary. The criteria that are used to establish the size can vary. So you don't find a necessarily uniform approach. But we can bring back to you what other communities have, and you can take a look at it.
And our present schedule was created in '86. Is that what I heard you say?
That it was 1968. 68. So,
So
you know, maybe
is-
we have to look at that. Or is it possible that, you know, could we table this here to come back with more research and look at other cities?
Well, we've got until September 5th, and when's the first council meeting in September for the council?
While he's checking, I would like, if we do go the route of finding out the variances of other cities, I would like to see Mankato as well as North Mankato, because if you think about it, maybe that's one of the reasons North Mankato doesn't have many businesses like this when you think about the numbers of, I don't know if that's why or why not, but just that could be a factor.
I'd also like them to check with the franchise too.
I don't think the council here wants to deny your permit, but I think at this point right now, I think you just have to look at different options possibly, or we have to look at different options also. So at this point, I wouldn't go back and say that we'll probably end up denying your request, but I don't think at this point
Let's see what
you can
Dave's
come
got.
back, I would think, down the road here.
Yeah, the city council meets September 2nd, so
There's no city council meeting in August?
we wouldn't have time, you know, before, you have your regular August meeting.
Oh,
And then you could get a recommendation to the city council at their September 2nd. But we do have to take action by September 5th, or we're in violation of the 60-day rule.
What, they could apply for it again, though?
And they could apply for it again.
Well, we have a motion and a second to deny it. Or if someone wants to amend it and ask for staff for a little more research.
I would amend it and ask for the staff for a little more research and have them, let's try working with the Lilians so we can try to resolve this, and maybe we can't. Can't say and just be, you know, but somehow or another, maybe you can come with the corporate office and maybe they can come down here and work with you on that.
Okay.
Is that something?
Yeah, we can, and I mean, we've had, actually, we just had the CEO here about a week and a half ago, and he was real impressed with the store and what we've done and everything, so
Nice.
that's, and like Nancy said, we've put in a lot of extra technology into the store to try to make one of the top stores in the system.
Get all the bells and whistles from everything that was required to above and beyond, so.
I mean, Taco John's been in town since '81, and I guess with this remodel, we're really hoping to make sure it sticks in town for another 20-some plus years. So that's what tried to reinvest, and it's completely different. So hopefully everybody likes it, and hopefully it's helped the city and make that standpoint and stand out, I guess.
Not more businesses leaving the city or anything like that. Want to grow the city, not.
So what is the motion that's currently on the table?
Well,
we do, yeah, I don't know. Again, we got, was that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, then we need a second.
got a motion
Okay, I'll second it.
and a seconded. And your motion was to amend your first motion
Yep.
and to have staff do a little,
Or the Lilians.
and the Liliadams to check with their franchise opportunities, and staff to look at other cities, so we have a guideline for a reference for the range.
Well, not also.
Signage.
Lilians might
And
have an
Lilians.
option, some different option with the signage, with the corporate.
So are we putting this on our August meeting agenda, which would be before the city council meeting, to have them come back, to check and come back with an option? Is that what we're
Correct.
talking? Okay,
It has to be the August meeting
the August meeting.
for the planning commission.
So the city would not have heard it, which is
Yeah.
fair.
I was wondering if you would like to suggest some communities that we would look at.
Sure. I think Ashley said Mankato and North Mankato,
I would say St. Peter as well.
How about Hutchinson?
maybe Fairmont.
That's a good one. Yeah, those
Yeah.
are both good ones.
No,
Wilmer or
Those all have Taco
Marshall, one of
John's.
those. 'Cause I mean, we can't have
No.
18 of them.
no, but I think a half dozen or so.
But all of
within a-
them do have a Taco John's. And
Yeah.
it will be coming down the line. Like
Yeah.
I said, with the COVID, this was actually a requirement of the rebranding, was a requirement. In March, we were going to go to a convention where they were going to announce everything. But
To
because of.
mandate the-
Mandate this, but they're going to hold it off another year. So they are going to be mandating this across the board.
It's coming
So-
up.
So in the next couple of years, you'll start seeing all Taco John's making this change across the system,
Consistency.
so.
If you take down the breakfast sign, you would probably have breakfast, you'd probably have enough room for bigger, bolder, better.
Well, it's all one big part, so,
I know.
and that's a category we want to grow, so.
Yeah, I understand.
Not if they have donuts.
So, all right. So we've got our motion and a second. We'll have Dave call a roll. I don't know if we have Rod on the speakerphone, so
Yeah. We started with Mr. Firth,
Aye.
Ms. Earl,
Aye.
Ms. Aukus,
Aye.
Ms. Mako,
Aye.
Mr. Golden,
Aye.
and Chair Mack.
aye. Motion carried. Next item of business is going to be 4.3. Is going to be consider the application of Paula Williamson requesting a variance from the city code to allow a 6-foot yard setback in order to construct an attached garage in the property located at 118 North Highland Avenue. The required side yard setback is 10 feet. I'm going to, John.
Okay. The applicant for this variance is Scott Kroll, the contractor. The property owner is Paula Williamson. Legal description is Lot 28, Highland Subdivision. The address is 118 North Highland Avenue. The property is generally located south and east of Betker Road and between Bianchi and Hilltop Avenue. Deadline for this decision is August 22nd, 2020. The land use designation for this property is low-density residential. Surrounding land use on all sides is low-density residential. It's zoned as R1 single-family residence district, and the surrounding zoning is all R1. Currently, the site is used as a single-family home. Current area uses, again, are all residential single-family homes to the north, south, east, and west. Public hearing notice was published in the Journal on July 18th, 2020, and to date, we have not had any comments back on this variance application. Property owner is proposing to construct a 14-foot wide by 33-foot long attached garage that would be 6 feet from the south property line or the side property line. The garage will replace a pre-existing garage and will not go any closer to the side property line than the previous attached garage. The reason for the variance request is because the property owner is proposing to add an additional 11 feet to the rear of the new garage. So that 11 feet would also be set 6 foot back from the side property line. This would extend the garage from its previous footprint and would go no closer to the property line. Section 9.06 subdivision 5C of the city code requires that there should be a side yard on each side of a building, each yard having a width of not less than 10 feet. The pre-existing garage that was attached to the house was located approximately 6 feet from the south property line. I should note that Elwood and I actually did find pins and were able to find the property line on this one. It was quite an adventure. The proposed new attached garage would be the same width as the previous garage, but 11 feet longer, extending to the east. The new garage would be 6 feet from the side property line and approximately 49 feet from the rear property line. All of the properties between Center Street and Hilltop Avenue and east of Highland Avenue were constructed between 1950 and 1962, before the current zoning code was adopted. And within that area, many of the properties have structures built within that side yard, 10-foot side yard setback. So there were a couple alternative actions to consider. One, not to reduce the side yard setback, or two, to lessen the variance amount. There are 5 attachments. First one being the variance application. Attachment 2 is a map showing the location of the property. Attachment 3 is a zoning map. Attachment 4 is a site plan, and attachment 5 are photographs. Staff recommends approval of the variance for the following reasons. The purpose of the proposed garage is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the use of this property. The proposed garage would go no closer than the side property line than the pre-existing garage. The placement of this garage does not change the essential character of this neighborhood at this site and will continue to be used for residential purposes. One condition that we would recommend is that the applicant shall locate the boundaries and verify the location of the proposed building on the site with city staff prior to the placement of the building. So we would like to go out there just when they're about to put the footings in and verify that it's still 6 feet from the property line.
Thank you, John. Well, I believe we have the contractor here if you have any questions with the contractor, but it's pretty cut and dry in my opinion. But
I think it's going to be an improvement for the area. Get rid of the old one and put a new one on it. I'd make a motion to grant the variance.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to grant the variance with the 6 foot setback. Oh, John?
Excuse me, there was one recommended condition that staff verify those property lines prior to construction. Did you want to include that condition?
Conditions in there.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second.
Yep, second with the
conditions.
conditions, yeah.
Any other discussion? Dave, please call roll.
Okay. Mr. Firth?
Aye.
Ms. Earl?
Aye.
Ms. Aukus?
Aye.
Ms. Mako?
Aye.
Mr. Golden?
Aye.
Chair Mack?
Aye. Motion carried. So we'll go to item 5.1 is plots, and consider the approval of the final plot for the Herman Monument Edition.
Okay, now, you heard a lot of this same information last month. So if you want, I can repeat it, or I can maybe just go down to the plat description and, start at that point. I will leave that up to how you would like to proceed.
In favor of the abbreviated version?
Yeah.
Be
I
fine
am
with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Thank you, Dave.
So, in this case, as indicated, the applicant, owner is City of New Ulm. Legal description is part of Outlot 230, 231, 243, 244, and 245. Street address 14 Monument Street. Property is generally located north of Center Street, east of Bianchi Drive. Status of the plat. City Council approved the preliminary plat with conditions at its July 7th, 2020 meeting. Plat description. The construction of a new parking lot at Herman Heights Park and the realignment of Monument Street necessitated the vacation of a portion of the original Monument Street. The realignment of Monument Street required the preparation of a new plat due to the new street location. City Council then directed staff to prepare a plat including the new alignment for Monument Street as well as the rest of the Herman Heights Park area. And so the plat eliminates meets and bounds legal descriptions, separately designates the location of certain park features, establishes an east line for the park. That would be the line with Harmon Park. And then provides simple legal descriptions for future use. Information is provided on the number of blocks and lots in each block. Status of conditions. Condition 1 was to pay the platting fee of $270. That payment is pending. And condition 2 was to provide an electronic file of the plat in an AutoCAD 2000 or newer format. That notification has been provided to the land surveyor. We've got 2 attachments, the final plat and an aerial photograph of the property. And staff would recommend approval with conditions. The 2 conditions still remain, so we need to complete those, and potential motions are provided. So nothing has changed since last month.
Thank you, Dave. Open it up for discussion.
Pretty cut and dry.
We'll look for a motion.
I'd move to recommend the approval for the final plat of the Herman Monument Edition with conditions.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve with conditions. We'll have Dave call roll.
Okay, Mr. Firth,
Aye.
Ms. Earl,
Aye.
Ms. Aukus,
Aye.
Ms. Mako,
Aye.
Mr. Golden,
Aye.
Chair Mack.
Aye. Motion carried. Item 5.2 is to consider the approval of the final plot of the Bodie edition. Look for staff. You got anything on this?
You got the Bodie edition there for me? Yeah. Okay, in this particular case, the applicant property owner is Eric and Casey Bodie. Legal description is Lot 1 and 2, Block 62 south of Center Street. Street address is 304 South German Street. Property is generally located south of 3rd South Street and west of South German Street. City Council approved the preliminary plat with conditions at its July 7th meeting. The plat description, the property to be platted currently consists of 2 gridiron lots with approximate combined dimensions of 100 by 165. That's a total lot area of 16,500 square feet. The plat would reconfigure those 2 existing lots into 2 new lots. The 2 new lots meet code requirements. Status of conditions, pay the platting fee of $210. That's pending. And again, provide an electronic file of the plat in AutoCAD 2000 newer format. That notification was provided to the land surveyor. Again, attachments are the final plat and aerial photograph. Staff would recommend approval of the final plat with conditions since it complies with city code requirements. There are 3 recommended conditions. So one is to pay the platting fee of $210 as noted above. Second is to provide an electronic file of the plat as noted above. We have added a new condition, and that is that the owner should provide a 10-foot wide utility easement adjacent to the proposed south property line of Lot 2. And so what that does is that gets us access from the alley to the lot that's on the front. And Our utility systems, we have both natural gas and electrical in the alley. So if at some point in time in the future a house is built on the front half, we have a means of getting to that lot rather than having to go around and use street right away to get to that location. Then potential motions are also provided.
Thank you, Dave. Well, we'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions.
I'd second that.
We got a motion and a second to approve with 3 conditions that are provided. Dave, call a roll.
Okay, Mr. Firth,
Aye.
Ms. Earl,
Aye.
Ms. Aukus,
Aye.
Mr. Mako.
Aye,
I'm sorry, Ms. Mako,
that's all right.
Mr. Golden,
Aye.
and Chair Firth.
You said chair first.
God,
It's been a long day.
it's been, yeah.
Aye. So, motion carried. And we're going to go to item 5.3. And it's going to be consider the approval of the final plot for the Hyman addition. And we'll look for staff report.
Okay, the applicant, property owner is John and Patricia Hyman. Legal description is Outlot A of the Old Orchard Edition and Sublot A and Sublot D of Outlot 330. Street address is 710 Summit Avenue. Property is generally located west of Summit Avenue, south of Jonathan Drive, and east of McIntosh Drive. Status of the plat, City Council approved the preliminary plat with conditions at its July 7th meeting. The plat description, the plat would convert one parcel of property into 2 lots. The total platted area has approximate dimensions of 160 by 614 feet. The proposed lots would comply with city code requirements. There have been no changes to the plat since the preliminary plat approval. Status of conditions, pay the platting fee of $210. That payment has been made. Provide an electronic file of the plat in AutoCAD 2000 or newer format. That notification has been provided. Pay the parkland dedication fee of $340. That payment has been made. And advise the owner of outstanding utility connection charges of $3,783.81. That notification has been provided to the owner. Attachments include the final plat and a narrow photograph. Staff would recommend approval of final plat with the one condition, since it complies with city code requirements. That condition is identified, and that's the electronic file of the plat, and potential motions are provided.
Thank you, Dave. Again, we'll look for a motion.
Move to approve with the conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve with conditions. Dave, call roll.
Mr. Firth,
Aye.
Ms. Earl,
Aye.
Ms. Aukus,
Aye.
Ms. Mako,
Aye,
Mr. Golden,
Aye.
Chair Mack.
Aye. Motion carried. Item 5.4, consider for approval the preliminary plot of Oak Bluffs 9th edition. Look for staff report.
Okay. The applicant is Mike Kroll. The property owner is M&D Properties LLC. The current legal description of the property is Lot 1, Block 1, Oak Bluffs 8th edition. Street address of the property is 1406 to 1446 6 North Street. Property is generally located north of 6 North Street, east of North Highland Avenue, and south of 7th North Street. Deadline for decision on this request is November 19th, 2020. The current land use designation in our comprehensive plan is medium-density residential and public, semi-public. Surrounding land uses in our comprehensive plan to the north and west is low-density residential. To the south is medium-density residential, and to the east is public, semi-public. Zoning designation of the property is R3, Multiple Family Residence District. Surrounding property to the north is both R1 and R2. To the east, it's R1 and R3. To the south, it's R3. And to the west, it's R1. Current site use, property is farmed and a portion of the site is vacant or undeveloped. Current area land uses to the north are single-family residences and a twin home. To the east, it's vacant, and the way of the cross sits behind the vacant property. To the south is the Diocese of New Ulm office building, and to the west are single-family residences. Notice none is required. Public comment, none received to date. Status of utilities. We've got water in 6 North and 7th North and North Highland Avenue. Sanitary sewers in 6 North, 7th North, and North Highland Avenue. Storm sewer is in North Highland Avenue. And natural gas and electric are in North Highland Avenue and 7th North Street. So the site is surrounded by utilities. As far as the park area, the comprehensive plan does not designate a park within the platted area. The plat description, plat has a total area of 4.75 acres. The plat would convert 1 lot into 5 lots. Lots 1 and 2 would accommodate 1 twin home. Lots 3 and 4 would accommodate 2 single-family residences. And Lot 5 is tentatively planned for 3 fourplexes. Current city code requirements and the dimensions and lot areas of the new lots are as follows. So for lot 1 and 2, the code requirement is that they have to be at least 50 by 125. Both lots meet that standard. The code requirement for lot area is 6,000 square feet, and they both meet that requirement. For lot 3 and 4, those are the single-family lots. Code requirement is 65 by 125. They both meet that requirement. For lot area, it's 8,000 square feet, and they both meet that requirement. For lot 5, the minimum requirement that we have is that it has to be at least 80 by 125. And it has to have a minimum lot area of 10,000 square feet, and as you can tell, the site meets those minimum standards. Now, based on the number of units that you place on the site, then those standards go up. All of the lots meet city code requirements. The proposed land use for Lot 5 will require the owner to secure a conditional use permit. The property was originally zoned to R3 in 2000 solely for development as a community unit project pursuant to Section 9.8 Subdivision 3C and Section 9.08 Subdivision 6 of the City Code. And the designation as a community unit project brings with it a requirement that the property owner has to provide additional information to the city and to the Planning Commission, City Council on this particular request. So you have attachments, and they include the preliminary plat, an aerial photograph of the property, a zoning map, and then ground level photographs. Staff would recommend approval of the preliminary plat with conditions since it complies with city code requirements. So the conditions, number 1, pay the platting fee of $300. That's a base fee of $150 and $30 per lot. Provide an electronic file of the plat in AutoCAD. We're going to change that from 2000 to 2016 now, or newer format. A fee was previously paid for parkland dedication purposes back in 2000. And at the time of platting is Oak Bluff's first edition, so that requirement does not exist in this case. Another condition is that they enter into a development agreement with the city on this project. And then finally, the platted area will create over 1 acre of new impervious surface. As a result, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency water regulations and the City of New Ulm stormwater ordinance apply to the platted area. This area was not included in the stormwater treatment program that currently serves this general area. And so prior to any construction activity taking place on the property, a stormwater treatment facility must be constructed to serve the area that's being platted. And then 2 motions are provided, one to recommend approval and the other to recommend denial.
Thank you, Dave. We'll open it up for some discussion. Dave, when you say stormwater treatment facility, is that like a holding pond?
Yeah.
Is that what you're stating? Have you got something identified for a location for that, or?
That's the, would be the owner's responsibility
To bring back.
to both engineer and to locate the stormwater pond.
Well, I think it'd be exciting to get that park developed up there.
I would agree also. And it balances out nicely with the
Yep.
twin homes and the R1. It's a good,
Yeah, it would match the platting that took place across the street, so on 7th North.
I'd make a motion to approve it with the conditions.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve with the conditions that were outlined it by staff. We'll have Dave call roll.
Okay, Mr. Firth,
Aye.
Ms. Earl,
Aye.
Ms. Aukus,
Aye.
Ms. Mako,
Aye.
Mr. Golden,
Aye.
Chair Mack.
Aye. Motion carried. Now we'll go on to item 6.1, City Council decisions concerning Planning Commission matters in July of 2020.
Okay, at the July 7th meeting, the City Council approved the preliminary plat of the Bodie addition, the Herman Monument addition, and the Hyman addition with conditions. And at that same meeting, they also received a vacation petition and set a public hearing date for August 4th for a section of street area that is east of South German Street, north of New Ulm Steel and Recycling, and then south of 16 South Street. It's a piece of street that's 40 by 130. And it's on the back side of the storage buildings that are in that area, the white storage buildings. So that'll take place at the next meeting. That was it.
All right, thank you, Dave. Item 6.2, Heritage Preservation Commission activities. Elwood?
Oh, we had one design review for a sign for Becky's Bakes bakery shop down the old Elgis Bakery. Sign was approved. That was it.
Okay. Well, meeting adjourned.